Your reputation is either the key to or the lock-on opportunity that's afforded to you within your career. The more people who know you and who hold you in a high positive regard, the greater the probability that you'll be able to achieve just about any goal that you set for yourself as a fitness professional. Conversely, regardless of how fast or the degree to which you experience success, there are very few, if any, sustainable competitive advantages left in our industry. In 1923, 8 of the world's greatest business moguls met in Chicago. Among them was the president of the largest gas company in the world, the president of U.S. Steel, the president of the Bank of International Settlement, and the president of the New York Stock Exchange. Among them, you also had the greatest wheat speculator, a member of the president's cabinet himself, one of the greatest legends on Wall Street, and the head of the world's greatest monopoly. So, whatever did happen to this assembly of the world's best, the brightest, most influential people on the planet? Charles Schwab, who was the president of the largest independent steel company, died broke. Howard Hobson, president of the gas company, went stark raving mad. Arthur Colton, who was the greatest wheat speculator in the world, died abroad, bankrupt. Richard Whitney, president of the New York Stock Exchange, served time in Sing Sing prison. Alfred Fall, the member of the president's cabinet, also served time in prison until he had to be released early so he can go home and die. Jesse Livermore, the greatest bear on Wall Street, committed suicide, along with Ivan Kruger, the head of the world's greatest monopoly, and finally, the president of the Bank of International Settlement also wound up killing himself. See, the one thing that you can be guaranteed of in this industry, in any industry, is there are very few guarantees. Nothing quite fails like success, meaning the more you succeed, the greater your tendency to become comfortable. In addition, you run the risk of the belief that whatever has been responsible for your success to date is sufficient to bring you more success in the future. Of course, that's simply not true. The one thing that we can absolutely guarantee you of is that your ability and willingness to effectively engage people and deliver something of value to them, as well as cultivating a reputation for excellence, that's in direct correlation with the level of success as well as the level of gratification that you're going to experience in this industry. There are 5 critical things that you need to keep in mind when you're meeting and greeting members and prospective clients. Number 1, know your outcome. Number 2, no encounter is insignificant. Number 3, no person is insignificant. Number 4, never prejudge. And number 5, first impressions are absolutely everything. So let's take a look at knowing your outcome. Even if something is seemingly small, such as gaining the attention of a member in a positive way, just to initiate the relationship or giving someone a moment of encouragement that makes them smile, the more clear you are and the more focused you are about what you want to achieve in that interaction, the greater chance that your behavior is going to match that intention. No encounter is insignificant. Everything that you do is going to either build or erode your reputation for excellence in your company. Everything counts. A page to the front desk to show a new member how to use a treadmill is not really an interruption of your work, it is the entire purpose of it. Seemingly inconsequential interactions are actually opportunities. They're opportunities to either acquire a client or to take a routine situation and use it to your advantage to turn someone who didn't know you previously into a raving fan of yours in the future. Raving fans can explode your business through word of mouth. Number 3, no person is insignificant. No matter how many clients you have, or whatever the situation you find yourself in, never treat anyone as if they're not important, or especially as if you have something better to do. Even if you're really busy with a client at the moment, if someone requires your assistance, let them know that you're going to follow up with them as soon as you're available, and then be sure to do it. Treat every person as if your entire career were based on their evaluation of you, because collectively, it really is. According to UCLA, your clients will stop doing business with you for one of the following reasons. 1% will die, 3% will move away, 5% will stop doing business with you due to negative word of mouth, 9% due to a perception in the change of quality that you're offering, 14% will stop doing business with you due to a pricing change. Fully 68% of everyone who chooses to stop doing business with you will do so because they perceive negativity or indifference on your part. According to Michael LaBeouf in his book, How to Win Customers and Keep Them for Life, we only hear from about 4% of our dissatisfied customers. That means 96% of everyone who stops doing business with us does so quietly. 91% of them are never coming back. The average business spends 6 times more to attract new customers than it does to keep their current ones. Customer loyalty is worth 10 times the price of a single purchase. Businesses that have low service quality average only about 1% return on sales and lose market share at about a rate of 2% every single year. Businesses with high service quality average 12% return on sales. They gain market share and they grow at a rate of about 6% per year, as well as they earn the right to charge more than their competitors. Typical businesses lose about half of its customers per year. Yet by increasing annual retention as little as 5%, companies can increase their bottom line by up to 25, even upwards of 100%. See, this isn't only relevant if you work for yourself, it's relevant even if you work for a company. Never prejudge. It's very common amongst trainers who have been working in the fitness industry for a period of time to miraculously develop the power of telepathy. They could just look across the room at someone and determine whether or not that person is going to become a client, and therefore whether or not that individual is worth investing their time in. You neither have the right nor the ability to read the mind of another person. Here's something you might find perplexing, but it's true nevertheless. Those who you think are absolutely going to become your client often won't. And those individuals who you think will never become a client often will. You put the odds of succeeding greatly in your favor by treating everyone as if they're going to become your client. Even if they don't, it's very likely that they're going to speak to someone who might. Nothing will kill your reputation as quickly as someone who either had a negative experience with you or was made to feel unimportant, who now wants to go out and share that fact with as many people as he or she can. Your goal is to meet and greet as many people within your environment as you possibly can. I have a friend of mine who had an insatiable passion for the fitness industry. Back in the 1990s, he started working as an independent trainer in health clubs throughout a major city in the United States. As an independent trainer, he had no salary, and because he was just starting out, he had no clients. That meant, of course, that he had no income either. Now, he noticed that many of the trainers who were actually on the club's payroll were just congregating together instead of going out and meeting and assisting members. He saw that as his opportunity. He made it a point to meet and greet every member that he came across. Soon, he knew just about everyone in the facility on a first-name basis. Conversely, they knew him on a first-name basis as well. Eventually, they came to know him and like him. Before long, they started seeking his advice. Many of these people discovered that not only did they get along with this trainer, but he had a lot of practical experience to share with them. More importantly, he was highly charismatic and he had the skills to bring out the very best in them. Soon, his book of business became full. He became so highly sought after that he literally could not take on any more clients. Soon, his reputation made him a phenomenon within the city. Everyone wanted to train with him. Even better, prominent publications wanted to interview him. His face and physique graced the covers of some of the world's most prominent, fashionable magazines. Today, he owns a chain of health clubs that are arguably some of the most distinct health clubs in the entire fitness industry. Now, can you imagine if he wasn't willing to take each opportunity to meet and greet each member so seriously? See, the difference between the winner and the average trainer is that winners do what average trainers refuse to do. If you do what others won't, you will succeed where others can't. And number 5, first impressions are everything. In every company, there are individuals who are known for excellence, and unfortunately, there are individuals who are known for mediocrity. In every organization, the same can be said. See, the latter don't last very long, whereas the former offers us a model that we can all learn from. In the hotel and hospitality industry, the Ritz-Carlton has long been held with a reputation for absolute excellence. As a matter of fact, for a long time, they were known as peerless in their ability to service a customer. The Ritz-Carlton has received the coveted Malcolm Baldrige Award for customer excellence multiple times. So what's the secret of the Ritz-Carlton? The Ritz-Carlton has 3 steps of service, and they are, number 1, a warm and sincere greeting. Use the guest's first name, and when possible, number 2, anticipate and then comply with guest needs. Number 3, every guest receives a fond farewell. Give them a warm goodbye, and again, use their name. Now, like the Ritz-Carlton, the very best health clubs in the fitness industry also practice something very similar to this service code. Now, to a lot of people, these steps seem so obvious. As a matter of fact, they can even be reduced to common sense. But common sense is not always common practice. Whereas other companies stand this, they lack tenacity in applying it. See, the Ritz-Carlton is almost fanatical about these 3 steps. Why is that? What is it that they know that other companies just don't? They understand the primacy effect. The primacy effect refers to a cognitive bias towards initial observation or information. In 1946, Gestalt psychologist Salman Esch conducted an experiment where he asked participants to rate an individual's attributes in areas such as happiness or how socially adept they were based on 6 adjectives. So prior to the evaluation, 2 groups of people were given a list of 6 adjectives, words describing the individual. One group received a list of adjectives describing this hypothetical individual as one who is envious, stubborn, critical, impulsive, industrious, yet intelligent. Another group was given the same list of adjectives, but in the opposite order of intelligent, industrious, impulsive, critical, stubborn, envious. Although both groups were given the same descriptions, the group whose list first gave adjectives describing that individual as intelligent and industrious gave him significantly higher ratings than the group whose list began with the descriptions of envious and stubborn. See, the primacy effect forms our cognitive filter. That's the filter we use to interpret every interaction through. We tend to rationalize all of our future interactions with someone based on our first impression. If we meet somebody and we think that he is kind and outgoing when we first met, but then a short time later he seems withdrawn, even cold, we would rationalize that by saying, well, he's simply having a bad day. Similarly, when we have a negative experience with someone, we tend to view future experiences through a negative filter. Further, we tend to be more resistant to change our impression of someone when that impression is negative. Therefore, your first impressions are critical to developing effective relationships with your members, not to mention potential clients. There are 5 keys to having the primacy effect work in your favor. Number 1, know your intention. Number 2, project confidence. Number 3, the projection of enthusiasm. Number 4, the willingness to listen. And number 5, presentation. Number 1, intention. If you want to make a great first impression, just look someone in the eye and smile, because that'll work every time, right? Well, no, actually, it won't. This might not be the case at all, in fact. See, when it comes to human relationships, you can't really fake it till you make it, and contrary to popular advice, an insincere smile isn't better than a sincere frown. Alice Granley and Associates tested this accepted wisdom in a study that took place in a hotel setting. She had participants watch videos of customer service interactions and then determine how satisfied they would feel if they were the customer being served by that hotel employee. Now, what the participants didn't know was that each interaction between both the staff member and the customer was actually conducted by paid actors. In each interaction, the actor was going to step into a role and follow a script. But there was one exception. In one case, the actress was asked to express positive feelings towards the customer and focus on how she can make that person across the counter feel good. In the other scenario, the actress was simply instructed to, well, smile. When participants viewed this video, all of them said that they would be more satisfied with the customer service representative who, unbeknownst to them, was told to simply focus on positive feelings and try to make the customer feel good. Far more so, as a matter of fact, than the actress who was simply told to smile. See, the first actress was generating positive feelings, and it was reflected in a genuine, full-face smile. The second actress was, well, simply acting, and people do know the difference. When you sincerely smile, the zygomatic major muscles lift your mouth into a smile, while contracting simultaneously with the orbicularis oculi. This creates a retraction of skin around the eyes. In other words, it's a full face smile. This smile is quite difficult to fake, and thus when you smile with your mouth but not your heart, you have an inauthentic smile consisting of only the movement around the mouth. Functional magnetic resonance imaging, in other words, an fMRI, reveals that when we sincerely smile at someone, it activates their medial orbital frontal cortex. This is your reward center in your brain. Yet an insincere smile doesn't seem to have the same effect. That's why when you're at the airport and the ticket agent is smiling at you profusely as she informs you that your flight has been canceled and, oh, by the way, it was the last one out that evening, it doesn't really make a difference to you, does it? But later on, you're sitting in the terminal, fuming by the way, and a mother is sitting across from you with her 6-month-old baby. The baby looks at you and gives you a huge, full-face, toothless smile, and instantly you start to feel good as you melt into your seat right there in the middle of the terminal. So, when you sincerely smile at a member, they instantly feel good. See, a lot of times we find ourselves in certain states, and the cool thing about this, or the damaging thing, depending on how you look at it, is when we find ourselves in a certain state over and over again, we start to associate things or people around us to how we feel. Just like in Ivan Pavlov's experiment, the dogs eventually came to associate the ringing of the bell, which was the stimulus, with the food, the reward. See, even though there was no direct link, when the bell was rung in the absence of the food, eventually, the dogs began to salivate just the same. Similarly, if you want to continually affect the reward centers of your members' brains in a positive way, so they start to associate you with a positive emotional state, you need to do the things that provide that stimulus over and over to affect their reward centers, which is not really bad to have that type of association attached to you, especially if you're trying to build a clientele. But since we can't really fake a sincere smile, every day before you get on your shift or you meet with a member, take a moment to yourself and ask yourself, what is it that I sincerely like about this person? If the first thing that pops into your head is, well, nothing, okay. If I did like this person, what would be the attributes that would make them seem a little bit more likable to me? How can I feel good about making this member feel good? In other words, if I make this member feel good, how would that make me feel in return? And what can I learn from this person? Another couple of questions to go over in your head is, what am I really grateful for in my life right now? And who or what in my life makes me the happiest? These questions will get you to focus on the things that naturally elicit a sincere smile. Some people use music that inspires them, that emotionally lifts them up immediately before they start work. Other people listen to comedy on their MP3 player prior to their shift. Whatever your strategy, find out what works for you and use it. Number 2, confidence. According to Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of human needs, after all of our physiological needs are met, the greatest human need is our need for security. People seek out security in their environment and in their relationships. If you lack confidence, individuals who lack self-assurance, sound like any new members you know, are going to feel greater doubt, not greater hope when they're around you. What is it that Sir Winston Churchill, Mahatma Gandhi, John F. Kennedy, Martin Luther King Jr., and President Nelson Mandela all have in common? First, they're arguably some of the most positively influential figures in the 20th century. Second, they all possessed clarity and confidence within their message. Would anyone have followed any of these historical icons if they communicated with uncertainty, hesitancy, ambiguity, or lack of self-assurance? A confident presence says that, 1, you're professional. You've got your stuff together. 2, a lot of times confidence is associated with competence. This person views you as someone who is knowledgeable and has the competence to help them achieve their goals. That's very reassuring to a member. Confidence is inseparable from your feeling of competence. The more competent you feel, because you're engaging in things that help you grow daily, the more confident you're going to feel. Doubt and lack of confidence comes from an inward focus. Direct your attention always at the prospect, on their best interest, what they're feeling, and not what you're feeling in the present moment. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, author of the book Flow, Psychology of Optimal Experience, explains that fear, self-doubt, and insecurity are all emotions that kill peak performance. What's interesting is all of this results from an inward focus. You can't experience disempowering emotions like self-doubt when you're focused 100% outside of yourself. During each appointment, focus solely on how you can serve your prospective client to the exclusion of everything else. And here's the thing, you'll be more brilliant more of the time. And the paradox is you'll achieve more through indirect means. Ekman and Levinson report that physical expressions create physiological emotion. What would your body language and facial expressions look like if you were an actor playing the role of someone with complete confidence, reassurance, and ability? Project that physically, and you'll feel that emotionally. Number 3, enthusiasm. Enthusiasm literally is the transfer of emotion. What's more, it's infectious. It makes you approachable because it projects the nonverbal message that you are warm and therefore you're safe. Enthusiasm doesn't mean you're a motivational speaker. It doesn't mean you're in the midst of a caffeine fit. It just means that you're excited about your work and you're present in the moment. You're not somewhere else. You're 100% vested in your interest in the member. Prior to every appointment, think about what is it about your work that you don't have to do, but rather you get to do, that excites you the most. Check your focus. Ask yourself, where am I mentally in this present moment? If it's anywhere else than on the member or on the client, your focus is in the wrong place. Are you making the individual that you're speaking with feel valued? Are you demonstrating the willingness to listen to them? That's number 4, listen. There are 5 levels of listening. The first one is ignoring. That's really not listening at all. You're somewhere else and you come back and the best you can come up with is, I'm sorry, what? The second is pretending. At least you have the common courtesy to act like you're listening, but that's not very impactful. This is where you're like, yeah, right, People can tell. The third level is selective listening. This is when you hear only certain parts of the conversation, and what you're usually doing is listening for cues that tell you it's your turn to jump in and interject your own opinion on what the other person's trying to tell you. Attentive listening is where you pay attention and you actually focus energy on the words that are being said. But the highest level of listening is empathetic listening. This is when you see the world through the eyes of the other person, not merely agreeing with them, but having a deep, full understanding of that individual. Empathetic listening results from asking questions, having a single-minded focus on the other person, not yourself, and a willingness, as a matter of fact, a fanaticism to avoid multitasking at all costs. Don't do anything else while another person is speaking to you. The one exception that you're going to learn about in this certification is making notes on key points that come up within the conversation, because that shows not only are you listening, but what they're saying is important enough for you to make a record of it to refer to later. Number 5, presentation. Part of our first impression is our appearance. That's why every professional has an implied uniform. Every aspect of how we present ourselves either adds to our credibility or detracts from credibility. Make sure that your uniform, whatever it is, depending on your region, is impeccable. Think of an airline pilot. His uniform is immaculate. Every aspect of his appearance is well groomed. He has an upright posture. He has shined shoes. He has a sense of urgency in his walk. And this, believe it or not, does create subconsciously greater confidence in his ability from his passengers. I'm sure an airline pilot would be far more comfortable during an international flight wearing jeans and a t-shirt. But what effect would that have on the confidence his passengers had in him? Now, of course, don't get me wrong, it's not as devastating as if he boarded the airplane with a stick and a dog. You get the picture. The key is you need to be congruent. One of the primary keys to influence is congruency. Again, think about Churchill, Gandhi, Martin Luther King, the most influential people of the past and probably of our century as well. After 27 years in prison, President Nelson Mandela demonstrated amazing congruency and perseverance by refusing to relinquish his ideals, even when he was tempted with the prospect of an early release. Not even his liberty was worth more to him than his purpose to end apartheid. His unwavering congruency throughout his life earned him enormous credibility throughout the world after his release. In his 2008 interview with Time magazine's Richard Stengel, Mandela recalled moments earlier in his life where he felt very afraid, yet he knew the importance of putting on a courageous face in order to reassure rather than dishearten his followers. According to brain researcher Leslie Hart, much evidence now indicates that the limbic area is the main switch in determining what sensory input is going to go into the neocortex and what decisions will be accepted from it. What this means is that your ability to positively influence someone is just as much a function of the subconscious mind as it is the conscious mind, and it's emotional by nature. If someone doesn't feel comfortable with you, they can't rationally listen to you. Therefore, you won't connect, and as a consequence, you're going to miss your opportunity to have the primacy effect work in your favor. I can't tell you how many times I've seen a trainer get paged to the front desk because a new member comes in and she wants to learn how to use the treadmill. The trainer, obviously not overly pleased about this interruption of his time, comes over, rolls his eyes, and then reluctantly takes her over to the treadmill. Now, while he doesn't really say anything wrong, his body language reveals a lack of enthusiasm. Well, she, as a consequence, feels intrusive, like she's being a bother. You know what? Maybe she feels a little bit stupid. She's probably not a future client, don't you think? In fact, she'll most likely never ask anyone in the club anything ever again. This one incident creates a negative impression of the club and every person in it that's likely to pervade every other experience. She might even quit. According to Professor Albert Moravian, there are primarily three components of communication. 55% of everything we communicate with someone when we're speaking to them face to face is represented in our body language, our posture, our degree of eye contact, our facial expressions, and things like that. 38% of everything we communicate is vocal tonality, not so much what you say, but how you say it. Your tempo, your intensity, your voice inflections, and only 7% of everything that we effectively communicate is contained within the words we actually use. Again, it's not what you say, but how you say it. The visual cues, even the most subtle ones from your facial expressions and body language, make an extraordinary difference. When it comes to first impressions, seeing really is believing. Your body language and tone of voice are far more reliable than the words you use. See, you're not really responsible for everyone positively responding to you. Don't misunderstand us. But what you are responsible for is doing everything you can to connect with as many people as possible so that you can offer encouragement, direction, education, inspiration, and most of all, the opportunity for change. Keep yourself in an environment conducive to winning by constantly developing your mindset and your skill sets. By doing everything you can to create and then sustain a positive first impression, you put yourself on the side of the angels when it comes to creating a client.